They say when your third eye opens, the world stops being something you look at, it becomes something that looks back. But what if I told you there's a word, hidden for centuries in the oldest mystery schools, that doesn't just symbolize awakening, it triggers it? Not a mantra to chant mindlessly, not a spell whispered in secret, but a single vibration, a living frequency that dissolves the illusion between you and what you see. When spoken with awareness, this word rearranges the geometry of your perception. It doesn't open the third eye like a door, it reminds it that it was never closed. Ancient scribes encoded it in forgotten alphabets, mystics disguised it as metaphor, and modern seekers overlook it entirely because it's hiding in plain sight on your tongue, in your breath, in the silence between every thought. Today, we're going to uncover that word, the hidden sound that instantly aligns you with the vision that sees beyond sight. This is not theory. It's not mysticism. It's the direct key to awakening. And once you hear it, you'll never experience the world the same way again. They say there was once a time when people didn't speak just to communicate, they spoke to create. Words weren't tools of description. They were instruments of vibration. Every syllable carried weight, frequency, color. A single sound could build temples, heal wounds, or split the veil between the seen and unseen. But something happened. Humanity forgot the weight of sound. Language became noise. We spoke more but felt less. We named everything but understood nothing. And yet, hidden beneath the noise, one vibration still hums quietly the original word. The word that doesn't belong to any religion, language, or culture. The word that doesn't ask to be believed, only remembered. There's an old story told by the desert monks. They say a traveler once came to a silent monastery built deep in the mountains of sand. The monks there spoke only one word each day, just one. The traveler was curious. "How can a single word hold any meaning?" he asked. The old monk smiled. "If you speak from noise, 1,000 words mean nothing. But if you speak from silence, one word means everything." That sentence haunted the traveler. He stayed with the monks for months, studying their discipline. Every morning they would wake before dawn, face the rising sun, and whisper a sound into the desert wind. It wasn't a chant. It wasn't prayer. It was a tone, one that didn't belong to any language he knew. It vibrated in the chest, not the throat. It didn't come from them, it moved through them. He tried to copy it, but every time he spoke it, it felt hollow, empty. Until one day, sitting alone in the dunes, he stopped trying to pronounce the sound and started feeling it. He realized the monks weren't saying a word, they were remembering it. The vibration wasn't created by the mouth. It was born from stillness. That's when the sand began to move. He felt a pulse in the air, like the earth itself was breathing with him. For the first time, he understood the sound wasn't meant to open the third eye by force. It was meant to dissolve everything that made him think it was closed. Now, here's the truth that most people overlook. The third eye isn't a spot on your forehead. It's not a mystical button you push through meditation. It's a state of perception, a layer of consciousness that's always active but buried under constant mental noise. And that hidden word, the one we're talking about, it's not magic. It's not a spell. It's a frequency. Every sound you make rearranges the geometry of your energy. Your body, your mind, your emotions all respond to vibration before thought. That's why music can make you cry without a single lyric. That's why silence can feel louder than sound. When you speak from alignment, when the vibration in your voice comes from still awareness instead of reactive thought, the word carries power again. It's no longer just sound. It's activation. If you look across ancient traditions, they all talk about this in different forms. The Hindus called it Nada Brahma, the world is sound. The Egyptians carved sacred tones into their temples. Even the Gospel of John begins with, "In the beginning was the Word." But here's what people get wrong. The power wasn't in the letters. It was in the awareness that spoke them. When your consciousness aligns with the vibration of creation, the word you speak, even if it's just one breath, becomes the same frequency that built galaxies. And that's what the third eye truly sees. Not visions, not colors, not mystical shapes. It sees vibration itself. It sees how everything light, thought, emotion is sound, slowed into form. Imagine for a moment you could hear light. Every color would be a note, every thought would hum a frequency, every human emotion would sing its own melody. Now imagine that within you is an instrument that can tune itself to that universal song, not to control it, but to harmonize with it. That's the real purpose of awakening the third eye. It's not about supernatural sight. It's about resonance. When your inner vibration matches the vibration of truth, illusion collapses. You stop looking for reality and start being it. There's a reason why certain words, when spoken consciously, can shift your state instantly. Try this. Close your eyes and whisper the word, now. But don't just say it. Feel it. Let it echo inside your head until it stops being a sound and becomes a space. Did you notice how everything pauses for a split second? That gap, that silence that follows the sound is the real portal. The monks in the desert weren't chasing some secret mantra. They were chasing that silence. They understood that sound and silence are two halves of the same frequency, one visible, one hidden. The hidden word that opens your third eye is not the sound itself. It's the space behind it. When you remember that space, you see through the illusion that you're a person trying to awaken. You realize awareness was never asleep, only distracted. Most people seek activation through techniques, mantras, or rituals. They think awakening is an achievement, a badge earned through discipline. But the third eye doesn't open through effort. It opens through recognition. You don't climb toward higher consciousness. You relax into it. And that's the paradox of the hidden word. The more you try to find it, the more it hides. The moment you stop searching, you start to feel it everywhere, in the hum of your fridge, in the rhythm of your breath, in the heartbeat behind a stranger's eyes. That's when you realize the hidden word isn't ancient. It's alive. It's spoken every moment by existence itself. The question is, are you quiet enough to hear it? To truly understand this, you have to stop looking for symbols and start listening to vibration. Not with your ears, with your awareness. Every thought you think, every emotion you feel, is a word spoken in the silent language of energy. Anger has a word. Fear has a word. Love has a word. But beneath them all is the same original sound, the one that holds it all together. It's the hum you sometimes hear in silence, that subtle ringing when the world goes still. Scientists call it tinnitus. Mystics call it the sound of being. You can call it whatever you like. But once you hear it consciously, not as noise, but as presence, your perception changes forever. Because that sound is not happening to you. It's happening as you. The traveler didn't leave the desert. Something in that sound had changed the way he experienced reality itself. Days began to blur into nights. He'd wake before sunrise and sit in silence, listening. The dunes would shift with the wind, yet somehow he felt the entire landscape breathing with him. He began to notice patterns in the stillness. When his mind wandered, the horizon shimmered. When he relaxed, everything stilled again. It was as if the world mirrored the rhythm of his attention. The monks had been trying to show him that from the start, the word wasn't about producing vibration. It was about matching it. One evening, while the desert cooled into violet shadows, the old monk placed a clay bowl before him. "Listen," he said. He struck the rim lightly with a wooden stick. The bowl sang a pure, bell-like tone that hung in the air longer than it should have. "What do you hear?" asked the monk. "A note," the traveler said. The monk shook his head. "That's not what I asked. What hears you?" The question stopped him. In that instant, he realized the sound wasn't traveling through air, it was resonating through consciousness itself. The word wasn't external. It was the listener's own awareness recognizing itself through vibration. That night he couldn't sleep. He sat outside the monastery and watched the stars. There was no voice in his head, no narration, only a steady hum under everything, like the desert itself was quietly chanting the same syllable over and over. He finally whispered, "I hear you." And for the first time, it felt as if the universe whispered back. Here's the part most people miss when they talk about awakening or opening the third eye. They imagine it's about seeing visions, colors, maybe geometric patterns, but those are side effects. The real shift is when awareness recognizes its own echo in everything around it. Think about it. When you speak, the sound doesn't vanish. It ripples through space, bounces off walls, lingers as vibration. The same thing happens when you think. Every thought has a frequency. It imprints itself into the subtle field around you. When your attention is scattered, those vibrations interfere with one another like instruments tuning to different keys. But when you return to stillness, to that single note the traveler discovered, all the frequencies align. That's when clarity bursts open. That's when the so-called third eye begins to perceive the pattern beneath chaos. It's not mystical, it's mechanical. The universe operates on resonance, and awareness, once tuned, sees the entire design as one seamless sound. So if you want to glimpse what the traveler found, you don't need to move to a monastery. You don't need sand or silence. You just need to pause long enough to notice the vibration that's already there. Try it now. Take a slow breath. As the air enters, listen not to the noise around you, but to the quiet hum inside your body. That's not imagination. That's the living frequency of consciousness. If you hold your attention there for even a few seconds, you'll feel something subtle happen. Your thoughts soften. The space behind your eyes becomes lighter, almost luminous. You're not forcing an opening. You're remembering the openness that was always present. And that's the essence of the hidden word. It isn't about discovering something new. It's about remembering what never stopped speaking. The next morning, the traveler awoke before the Sunday. The desert was still, the air heavy, with that faint hum he had begun to recognize. He didn't know whether it came from the earth or from within him, but it didn't matter anymore. It felt like both. He walked out to the edge of the dunes where the wind carved long ripples in the sand. He pressed his palm against the ground and whispered the sound he had heard the night before, not with his voice, but with his attention. And the strangest thing happened. The world didn't respond with thunder or light, but with stillness, a stillness so deep it almost sounded like music. He realized in that moment, the word he'd been seeking wasn't spoken through sound waves. It was spoken through awareness itself. It was less like saying something, and more like being something. We tend to think of words as things we speak outwardly, but the hidden word, the one that opens the third eye, doesn't move outward, it expands inward. It's a vibration that reorganizes the field of perception. Every time you think a thought, you're actually creating a micro-vibration. It might be subtle, but it's real. That vibration determines how your nervous system filters reality. Fear vibrates differently from love. Guilt, resentment, joy all produce unique electromagnetic patterns. So when your energy is scattered, your perception fractures. You don't see the world as it is. You see it through the static of your own frequency. But when your inner tone becomes pure, when it aligns with that original hum, everything sharpens. You begin to perceive layers you didn't know existed. The space behind objects, the intelligence woven into coincidence, the shimmering thread that connects every moment to every other. This is what ancient mystics called opening the third eye. It's not an act of seeing something new, it's a realization that you are the seeing itself. The traveler spent weeks in silence after that. The monks didn't give him instructions, they only smiled when they passed. In that quiet, he began to observe how his mind generated constant commentary, a voice narrating everything. He noticed that the moment he got lost in that narration, the hum disappeared. But when he relaxed, when he let the voice dissolve into background noise, the vibration returned effortless, patient, like the earth breathing. He started to realize that awareness had never stopped humming. It was thought that it had been too loud to notice it. The old monk saw his understanding growing and finally spoke. "You are beginning to hear, but now you must learn to see the sound." The traveler frowned. "See the sound?" The monk pointed to the horizon where the heat waves rippled in the distance. "The air is clear, but the light bends through it. So too does awareness bend through thought. When the vibration is pure, what you see becomes transparent. You begin to see what's seeing." That was the beginning of his initiation into the art of perception. He learned to use his attention like a tuning fork. Each morning, he would choose a single sound, a tone, a word, sometimes even the syllable AUM, and let it echo through his mind. The point wasn't repetition, it was recognition. He would let the sound dissolve until only the vibration remained, and in that vibration, he would sense shapes, geometric patterns of light that formed and faded like dust motes in sunlight. At first, he dismissed them as imagination, but the monk explained, "What you call imagination is the raw material of creation. Every image the mind forms is a sound slowed into form." That idea shook him. He began to test it. When he focused on gratitude, the shapes would pulse in golden tones. When he fell into anger, the same shapes turned sharp and distorted. He realized emotion was not just feeling, it was geometry made of vibration. Every state of being painted the world in its own pattern. This was the secret of the hidden word. When spoken consciously, it changes the geometry of your perception. The traveler began to experiment with this awareness during the day. As he walked through the monastery, he would silently repeat the tone inside his chest. Whenever his attention wavered, the world appeared ordinary. But when he held the frequency, when his awareness stayed anchored in the hum, colors became more vivid, sounds more layered. Even the wind seemed intelligent. One evening, while meditating, something shifted. The vibration grew so strong he felt his whole body dissolving into it. There was no separation between the hum and his heartbeat. No line between the sound and the listener. Then, in that timeless moment, something inside him clicked. He didn't see visions. He didn't float outside his body. He simply became aware of awareness itself. And that awareness wasn't blank, it was alive. It was watching itself through his eyes. This was the real third eye activation, not mystical fireworks, but the simple recognition that consciousness is the only constant, and every form it perceives is just its echo. People chase awakening like it's a reward. They want techniques, shortcuts, instant activations. But the traveler discovered that the hidden word works only when you stop trying to make it work. You can't force a vibration to appear. You can only quiet yourself until you match it. In modern language, that means letting your nervous system settle enough for coherence to form. When you stop running mental simulations, your brainwaves synchronize, your perception stabilizes. That's why deep meditation, sound baths, or even simple breath work can cause spontaneous moments of clarity. They bring you into resonance with that original tone. The moment you resonate with it, you stop chasing experiences. The third eye isn't something you open, it's something that remembers itself open. One night, a sandstorm swept across the desert. The monastery doors rattled as the wind howled like 1,000 voices. The traveler sat inside, trying to maintain focus, but fear crept in. The sound of the storm drowned the inner hum. Frustrated, he shouted into the chaos, "I can't hear it!" From the darkness, the old monk's voice answered, "Then listen to that." The traveler closed his eyes and surrendered. He let the roar of the storm enter him completely. Instead of resisting it, he merged with it. And then suddenly the noise transformed. The howling wind became the same vibration he'd been chasing. The storm and the silence were one sound. He laughed, realizing how absurdly simple it was. The hidden word isn't buried in some temple or scripture. It's speaking through every sound, every motion, every breath. The secret wasn't about escaping noise. It was about recognizing silence inside it. That night, when the storm finally faded, the desert was washed clean. The stars burned brighter than he'd ever seen. And in the middle of that vast stillness, he whispered, "I get it now. The sound was never hidden. I was." This realization marked the true beginning of his awakening. His third eye, his perception, had aligned with the frequency of the word. From then on, wherever he looked, he saw patterns of vibration moving in harmony. When he spoke, his words carried calm. When he touched the ground, it seemed to pulse gently under his hand. He wasn't different from anyone else, but his awareness was clearer. He no longer mistook form for truth. He saw everything: pain, joy, love, loss, as expressions of the same sound. And the word? It was no longer a secret syllable. It had become the vibration of his own being. Before he left the monastery, the old monk gave him a final lesson. "The hidden word is not a sound to remember," he said. "It is the silence that remembers you. Guard it well, not by keeping it secret, but by staying honest with your own vibration. When you speak, speak from that stillness. When you act, act from that tone. The world will hear you even if you make no sound." The traveler bowed deeply. As he walked away into the morning light, he realized the hum followed him wherever he went, not as a mystical gift, but as the natural rhythm of awareness itself. From that day on, he understood that every person, whether they know it or not, is speaking that hidden word through their existence. The universe is the echo of that sound, endlessly repeating itself through every heartbeat, every whisper, every breath. The question is never whether the word exists. The question is whether we're willing to listen. Kai had always thought perception was passive. You saw what was in front of you, interpreted it, and moved on. Life was linear, measurable, predictable, until the night everything shifted. He was sitting alone in his small apartment, the city buzzing faintly outside the window. Neon reflections fractured across the walls, making the room feel like a prism. His mind was restless, scattered thoughts, deadlines, the noise of life pressing in. And then, without warning, a single syllable arose in his awareness. Not spoken aloud, not typed or read, just there. It was soft, almost imperceptible, yet it carried a weight that made his chest tighten and his skin tingle. That was it. Or maybe not the sound itself, more the vibration behind it. A resonance that seemed to echo in every cell of his body. Kai had no idea what it meant. He felt foolish repeating it silently, afraid it was just a trick of his imagination. But something in him knew. This was the hidden word everyone talked about in hushed tones, the one that supposedly opened the third eye. He whispered it again, slower this time, letting the vibration fill his chest, his throat, even the soles of his feet. The city noise outside didn't fade, but it shifted. It felt alive. Like every honk, every distant laugh, every flickering street lamp was humming in harmony with the vibration inside him. The first lesson became clear. The word isn't magic. It's resonance. It's awareness tuned to the frequency of consciousness itself. Over the next days, Kai experimented. Every time he repeated the vibration, he noticed subtle changes. Colors seemed richer, sounds layered themselves differently, and even people appeared sharper in his perception. Not literally glowing, but he saw them more fully, their hesitations, micro-expressions, the invisible tension between what they said and what they felt. He realized that reality was always speaking, but he had been too busy listening to the constant chatter in his own head to hear it. The hidden word didn't give visions. It made him listen in a way he never had before. Kai also noticed something stranger. His thoughts began aligning naturally. He no longer flinched at minor setbacks. Traffic, missed calls, accidental spills, none of it disrupted him the way it had before. The vibration he carried acted like a filter, letting through clarity and coherence while blocking the static. The hidden word, he understood, was not about predicting or controlling events. It was about aligning perception with truth. And once perception aligned, the world responded. One evening, Kai walked through a crowded street. Neon signs reflected in puddles. People moved in haphazard patterns. Car horns screamed. He started the vibration quietly in his chest, and then he noticed it. Patterns. The chaos wasn't random. Every movement traced a subtle rhythm, a dance of flow he had never seen. A woman bumped into him, apologizing quickly. Normally, he would have muttered a response or moved on. Instead, he felt the vibration rise in resonance with hers. For the first time, he connected without words. Her hurried energy softened, a small smile crossed her face, and for a brief moment, the street felt like it had paused to allow them both to breathe. Kai realized then that the hidden word wasn't just about seeing differently. It was about interacting differently. Every interaction, every glance, every movement, it carried the vibration of consciousness. And if you could match it, even subtly, the world itself became responsive. Kai's journey accelerated when he began experimenting with intention alongside the vibration. He wasn't manifesting in the cheesy, forceful way self-help gurus preached. He wasn't clinging to outcomes or visualizing spreadsheets of success. He was simply holding the vibration consistently, letting awareness align first, and noticing how the world subtly restructured itself. Bills that felt overwhelming found solutions almost effortlessly. Conversations with colleagues opened doors that had seemed permanently closed. Even the simplest decisions, what to eat, which route to take, whom to call, flowed with clarity and ease. The hidden word, Kai realized, was a tool not for forcing life, but for tuning life. It didn't create, it aligned, and alignment was enough. One night, he met Lena in a small cafe. She was radiating tension, scrolling her phone anxiously. Shoulders tight, lips pressed. Kai felt the vibration inside him pulse gently and, without thinking, let it extend outward. He didn't touch her, speak to her, or offer advice. He just held the tone, internally. Minutes passed. Her shoulders softened, her fingers stopped fidgeting. She looked up and met his gaze, blinking, as if seeing clearly for the first time in hours. Kai didn't say the word aloud. He didn't need to. The vibration had already spoken. This was the true power of the hidden word. It didn't demand belief. It didn't require ritual. It simply needed awareness, sustained long enough to shift the field. The next phase of Kai's experiment brought an even deeper revelation. He had been meditating for 20 minutes, holding the vibration, feeling it pulse through his body. And then he noticed something. The vibration wasn't just in him, it was everywhere. The walls of his apartment, the hum of the refrigerator, the distant wail of a siren, all of it was part of the same resonance. The word wasn't something he created, it was something he tuned into. And the moment he stopped trying to hold it too tightly, the clarity exploded. He could sense the subtle connections between objects, events, even people. A man walking by the window carried the same frequency of tension that had plagued Kai earlier that day. A streetlight flickered, echoing a pattern he had unconsciously thought. The universe, in its infinite complexity, was a mirror of vibration, and the hidden word was the key to tuning the mirror. Kai began teaching himself small exercises to sustain the vibration. First, he would find silence, not just quiet, but inner quiet. No music, no scrolling, no mental rehearsal. Second, he would anchor the word in his chest, letting it pulse naturally with his breath. No forcing, no chanting, just resonance. Third, he would carry it into daily life. Walking, speaking, interacting, each moment became a practice in sustaining awareness. What surprised him most was how mundane life suddenly became extraordinary. The hidden word didn't conjure miracles, it revealed them. The same city streets, the same colleagues, the same routines, but now, seen through clarity, they shimmered with layers of meaning he had never noticed. The principle was simple, almost absurd in its elegance. Perception shapes reality. Awareness carries vibration. Vibration is intelligence. Match it, and life bends without force. By the end of the first month, Kai noticed a shift in how others responded to him. It wasn't charisma or charm, it was coherence. People found themselves listening, pausing, opening up. He realized that the vibration of the hidden word radiated outward, subtly tuning the space around him. Every conversation, every transaction, every step became a collaborative resonance. He wasn't controlling the world, he was sounding in harmony with it. He thought back to the first night when the word appeared in his awareness, and he laughed softly. Back then, he had searched for a syllable. Now he understood. The syllable was never the point. The point was alignment. The hidden word was never external. It was recognition of what was already vibrating inside him, the intelligence, the awareness, the consciousness itself. And here is the critical lesson. This isn't mystical or unattainable. Every human being carries the same capacity. The word isn't a secret password. It's a frequency. It's waiting to be tuned into. You don't have to meditate for years. You don't need a teacher in a distant monastery. You need focus, presence, consistency. Kai learned that the simplest act, noticing a breath, holding a vibration, tuning perception, had more power than any plan, any checklist, any manifestation hack. The hidden word doesn't promise easy life. It promises clarity. It promises alignment. And in alignment, the world doesn't resist. It responds. Kai's next step would be testing the vibration in chaotic, high-stress environments. Crowded streets, office politics, even arguments. But he was no longer afraid. He knew the principle was simple, even if it wasn't obvious. Resonate first, act second. Trust the alignment. And the moment he fully trusted the resonance of awareness, the vibration of the hidden word, the third eye didn't open as a spectacle. It opened as perception itself. Sharp, deep, unfiltered, and alive. Kai's mornings had taken on a rhythm he had never known before. The city outside his window pulsed with its usual chaos, cars honking, voices echoing from construction sites, subway trains rattling beneath the streets, but inside him, something entirely different stirred. The hidden word, the one that had seemed like an abstract idea yesterday, now pulsed like a steady heartbeat beneath his ribs. But awareness alone wasn't enough. Knowledge wasn't enough. Clarity wasn't enough. Kai needed proof. He needed to see if this vibration could hold in the chaos of real life, outside the quiet of his apartment, outside the neat boundaries of theory. The first test came at work. His team was drowning under impossible deadlines. Emails piled up like towers, ready to topple. Frustration hummed in the air like static electricity. Normally, Kai would have felt the anxiety creep into his chest. The same old tension knotting tighter with every impatient glance and clipped comment. This time was different. Kai whispered the word quietly in his mind and let it settle in his chest. He didn't try to force calm. He didn't try to push the stress away. He simply observed. He noticed the patterns. The ways frustration bounced between colleagues like sparks across dry kindling. The miscommunication. The repeated mistakes. The wasted motions. It was all visible now as a system, a field of energy waiting to be guided rather than fought against. Kai acted, but not with force, not with urgency. He moved in alignment with the frequency of the word. A gentle correction here, a listening ear there, a pause where normally there would have been impatience or irritation. By mid-afternoon, the shift was undeniable. Decisions that had been stalled for hours suddenly moved forward. Creative solutions appeared where there had been none. Ideas that had been trapped in argument and resistance now flowed freely. The hidden word hadn't changed the project. It had changed Kai's relationship to the project, and the world had responded. Later that day, on the subway, Kai noticed the vibration's subtle power extending outward. The train was crowded, stale, noisy, its air thick with human tension. He closed his eyes briefly, grounding himself in the pulse of the word. He let the vibration radiate from his chest, syncing with the rhythm of the train, syncing with his own breath. A woman bumped into him. Normally, he would have bristled, muttered under his breath, or at least sighed in frustration. This time, he smiled, subtle, calm, anchored. Her shoulders relaxed, her eyes softened. A small, almost imperceptible thank you escaped her lips. But it was enough. A ripple extended outward. A man standing near the door adjusted his backpack more gently. A child stopped fussing. Even the pattern of footsteps shifted, almost imperceptibly, as if the vibrations were weaving into the world around him. Kai realized the hidden word wasn't just about seeing differently, it was about being differently. Every interaction became a microcosmic test of resonance. That night, Kai faced his greatest challenge yet: resistance from within. He had held the vibration for hours, walking the city streets, letting it pulse with every heartbeat, letting it sync with his breathing, with the rhythm of life itself. And then, doubt appeared, an almost familiar, insidious whisper. "You're imagining this. It's nonsense. You're not special. It won't work outside your comfort zone." Kai froze. The vibration wavered. His chest tightened. The city's hum seemed to amplify into a low roar of chaos. Every instinct screamed to abandon the experiment, to retreat into the safety of familiar perception. Then he remembered the principle. Alignment first, action second. Resonance holds, even under stress. He inhaled slowly, anchored the vibration in his chest. And then he walked into the chaos with deliberate calm. The test arrived immediately. 2 men were arguing over a taxi on the street. Voices raised, fists ready. The tension was visible, almost tangible. Normally, Kai would have passed by quickly. Normally, he would have felt the urge to intervene or step back, unsure of how to influence the situation. This time, he didn't intervene with force. He didn't yell. He didn't even try to reason. He held the vibration in his chest, grounding himself in the pulse of the word. Something extraordinary happened. The men froze mid-gesture, like a moment of reality had slowed down. Their eyes met, softened for a heartbeat, and the fight dissolved into awkward laughter. Kai walked away, heart racing, but the word remained steady in his chest. This wasn't luck or coincidence. It was the subtle law of resonance at work. The hidden word wasn't about controlling outcomes. It was about being a node of coherent energy in a chaotic field. Others didn't resist. They aligned. Over the next week, Kai conducted more experiments. He held the vibration while negotiating bills. Payments resolved smoothly. He carried it into conversations with friends, diffusing conflicts that had lingered for months. He experimented with creative projects. Music, writing, photography. Inspiration flowed effortlessly. Ideas appeared fully formed, not forced, guided by something beyond ordinary cognition. Each experiment reinforced a deeper truth. The hidden word was not a shortcut. It wasn't just say it and get what you want. It was a frequency of alignment, a conscious tuning to life itself. Then came the breakthrough that would change everything. Kai was walking through the park at dusk. Trees swayed in the soft wind. Birds called to each other in patterns barely perceptible. The smell of damp earth filled the air. He held the word in his chest and let it pulse. Steady, continuous, and then he saw it. Energy, movement, connection. Everything vibrated. Every shadow, every patch of light, every blade of grass and fluttering leaf pulsed with rhythm. Birds flew in spirals and arcs that mirrored patterns in the trees. The way sunlight hit the grass formed angles that echoed the unseen flow of energy through the park. Even people walking by unaware, lost in their own worlds, radiated waves of tension, hope, joy, frustration. Kai could see the patterns. The relationships between objects, beings, and events unfolded like a living geometry. The hidden word had opened more than perception. It had opened a map of resonance in the world. He could see patterns before they happened. He could sense alignment. He could read energy as naturally as he once read the time on a clock. Kai pushed further. He experimented with creativity. He whispered the word, anchored in its vibration, and began writing. Words flowed differently. Sentences emerged pre-formed in his mind, as if he was tuning into something already complete. He painted. The strokes weren't deliberate. They were guided by a kind of unseen architecture, a resonance that dictated movement. Patterns emerged effortlessly, and yet they felt deliberate, harmonious, alive. At night, he experimented with sleep, holding the vibration, letting it pulse as he drifted off. He found his dreams becoming vivid, prophetic even. Patterns from his dreams reflected back in waking life. A chance encounter, a repeated number on a clock. The angle of sunlight in his apartment reality itself was responding to his attuned frequency. And yet, the greatest challenge remained. Others who resisted. Kai attended a dinner with friends. Their energy was scattered, frustrated, anxious. Normally, he would have mirrored it, absorbed it unconsciously, perhaps even felt irritation rising. This time, he held the word in his chest, steady. He spoke, not to control, not to force agreement. He spoke from resonance, from alignment. Slowly, the conversation softened. People relaxed. Humor and insight began to surface. Harmony wasn't imposed. It was invited. The paradox became clear. You cannot control external reality, but you can anchor yourself in a frequency that invites alignment. And once you do, The world begins to reorganize around you subtly, elegantly, inevitably. By the end of the week, Kai understood the hidden word's full power. It's a frequency, not a mantra. It amplifies awareness, revealing patterns invisible to ordinary perception. It allows navigation of chaos without force, influence without manipulation. It reveals your own role as a node in a network of resonance. Kai moved from curiosity to mastery, not through effort, but through consistent attention and alignment. The world wasn't separate from consciousness. It was a mirror, responsive and alive, waiting for him to tune in. But he knew this was only the beginning. The hidden word didn't stop at personal clarity or social harmony. It opened doors to intuition, insight, and understanding abilities that stretched beyond ordinary human experience. The third eye wasn't mystical. It wasn't a glowing symbol or a physical organ. It was the conscious recognition of resonance. It was seeing the world as it truly is, interconnected, responsive, patterned, alive. Kai closed his notebook that night, holding the word in his chest one final time. As he drifted off, he understood. Mastery of the hidden word was not a destination. It was a state of being. The world would respond, but only to those willing to hold themselves in alignment long enough to be heard. Kai woke before dawn, the city still draped in a heavy fog that blurred the sharp edges of reality. Streetlights glowed like suspended fireflies in the mist, and he felt a curious stillness in the air, as if the world was holding its breath. He sat cross-legged on the floor of his apartment, the hidden word humming like a subtle vibration in his chest. It was time for the next step. Not practice, not theory, integration. He had tested, experimented, and observed. Now he would see what this frequency could reveal when he allowed it to permeate everything: mind, body, and perception. He began with his senses. Sight first. He noticed details he had never seen before: the subtle interplay of light on the fogged streets, the gradient of color in a single leaf on the balcony, the way his own hands moved, casting miniature shadows that curved like living forms. Normally, the world appeared static. Objects, people, and events were separate, isolated, independent. Now, everything seemed connected by an underlying pulse, a rhythm that linked the wind, the concrete, the cars, and the people into a single living tapestry. Sound followed. He heard the low hum of the city's infrastructure, the subway far beneath him vibrating in harmonic resonance, the soft rustle of pages in the book he had left open overnight. Each sound was layered, precise, meaningful. Noise became information, frustration in someone else's tone, joy in the pitch of a child's laugh, hesitation in the shuffle of footsteps. They were no longer random. They were signals, patterns, whispers of the invisible field that shaped everything. Kai realized his perception had shifted. He was no longer looking at the world. He was listening to it, feeling it, resonating with it. Every observation was alive, moving, speaking. By mid-morning, he ventured outside. The streets were already waking. Vendors arranged their carts with unconscious precision. Pedestrians flowed like currents, each footstep leaving a trace of intention that rippled outward. Kai walked without a destination, letting the vibration of the word anchor him in the present. Then he noticed it. Subtle distortions in reality, responding to inner frequency. A man impatiently tapping his phone slowed mid-motion, pausing to glance at a butterfly on the railing. A puddle reflected not just the sky above, but the energy he radiated. He extended his hand, and the reflection in the water seemed to ripple, bending toward the pulse of his presence. It wasn't magic. It wasn't coincidence. It was alignment, made visible. The hidden word acted like a lens, revealing the intricate architecture of resonance that underlies the world. Kai's next step was more daring. He sought out situations that previously had caused frustration or fear, testing the limits of the frequency. At the train station, crowds surged, energy thick with impatience. Normally, the press of bodies would trigger a familiar stress. Shallow breathing, tight chest, racing thoughts. This time, Kai held the word in his chest. He felt the vibration expand outward, not forcibly, but like a pulse in water, soft yet powerful. People's movements shifted. A man jostling him stepped back unexpectedly. A child, crying near the platform edge, quieted as if sensing a calm in the space. Even the train doors, usually stubborn, opened smoothly and on time. Kai realized the hidden word wasn't just about perception, it was about interaction. By holding coherent energy, he influenced probability itself. The first major insight struck him that afternoon. Kai sat at a cafe, sipping coffee, watching the city hum. The hidden word vibrated steadily, and he allowed his mind to quiet, letting intuition surface. Patterns emerged in how events were unfolding around him. Traffic lights, interactions, deliveries, conversations, all were arranged according to subtle currents of alignment he had never noticed. A delivery driver approached the cafe. Normally, such interactions were mundane, mechanical. But today, Kai noticed the driver hesitated, glanced at him, and smiled. Something about Kai's presence had adjusted the probability, nudging the encounter into a different outcome. They exchanged a few words, and the driver left with a noticeable lightness. Kai understood now. The hidden word wasn't about controlling people. It was about tuning into the resonance that makes life flow effortlessly, noticing how even the smallest adjustments in frequency ripple outward into the larger system. Night brought another revelation. Kai stood on the rooftop, looking down at the city. The lights created a tapestry of energy, but now it was transparent. He could perceive the interwoven frequencies of thousands of lives, moving, vibrating, responding. He whispered the hidden word and let it extend outward. He felt waves of resistance, tension, frustration, and joy. Entire neighborhoods pulsing with emotion, echoing in patterns he could sense in his chest. The realization hit him like a jolt. Consciousness isn't contained within him. It flows through him. The word amplifies that flow, allowing him to navigate the energetic field instead of reacting blindly. The city was alive, intelligent, responsive. The hidden word wasn't a tool to command it, it was a key to coexisting with it, harmonizing with it. Then came a challenge unlike any before. A friend, Mara, called in distress. Something serious, personal, urgent. Normally, Kai would have felt the panic ripple through him, anxiety knotting his chest, thoughts scattering like leaves in the wind. Instead, he anchored in the vibration of the word, letting the pulse steady him. He focused, listening deeply to Mara's energy over the phone. He noticed her tension, the subtle hesitations in her voice, the unspoken fears. Rather than offering solutions immediately, Kai aligned with her emotional frequency. His calm resonance acted as a stabilizing force, allowing Mara to ground herself, find clarity, and begin problem-solving without panic. The lesson was clear. Mastery wasn't about altering events. It was about becoming a coherent field of presence that organizes the chaos around it. Kai's integration deepened over the week. He experimented with creative work. Music, writing, and painting became exercises in pure resonance. The hidden word no longer needed repetition. It had become a constant background frequency. Inspiration wasn't forced, it flowed effortlessly, guided by a principle he could not yet fully describe. Even sleep changed. Dreams became lucid, predictive, sometimes surreal. Events from dreams mirrored waking life, offering guidance, insights, and patterns Kai had never consciously noticed. He began recording them, seeing connections between dream symbols and real-world interactions. The hidden word amplified not only perception but access to the intuitive higher-order structures of reality. One evening, the ultimate test presented itself. Kai walked into a neighborhood plagued by tension, an alley where arguments and minor disputes frequently broke out. A group of young men confronted each other, energy crackling. Normally, Kai would have avoided the scene, heart racing, instincts tense. This time, he anchored the word in his chest. He stepped forward, not to mediate with logic, not to lecture, not to control. He radiated the frequency. Time slowed. Faces softened. Tension rippled outward and dissolved. Arguments lost momentum. Fists relaxed. Shoulders dropped. Slowly, The group dispersed, laughing quietly at the absurdity of their own earlier anger. Kai realized the third eye wasn't just a metaphor. It was perception and influence in perfect resonance with reality's hidden patterns. Kai's final insight for the night crystallized as he sat on the rooftop again, overlooking the city. The hidden word wasn't a secret trick. It wasn't a mystical chant or incantation. It was a living frequency, a state of alignment that bridges consciousness and reality. Holding it wasn't about power, it was about coherence. It was about seeing the patterns, sensing the currents, harmonizing with them instead of resisting. And then he understood the final paradox. Mastery doesn't make the world bend to him. Mastery makes him bend to the world in alignment, allowing the world to unfold as it truly is. The third eye was not a tool to manipulate. It was a lens that reveals the interconnected intelligence already present. The hidden word unlocked not what he could control, but what he could perceive and participate in fully. Kai whispered the word, letting it pulse through him as he closed his eyes. The city below throbbed in resonance. He was both observer and observed, participant and pattern. The hidden word had opened him, and the world had responded not because of magic, but because reality is alive, intelligent, and responsive to coherent consciousness. By the time he drifted into sleep, Kai's perception had transformed. The hidden word had gone beyond being a secret technique. It was now an inseparable part of his being. The third eye was open, not literally, not as a glowing organ, but as an awareness of resonance, connection, and influence. He could perceive patterns invisible to others, navigate probability with fluidity, and participate in life without resistance. The city slept, but Kai was awake. Awake to the rhythm of existence, to the pulse of creation, to the infinite patterns vibrating beneath every moment. And he knew, without doubt, that this was only the beginning. Kai woke to sunlight spilling through the blinds, painting golden streaks across the floor. The hidden word pulsed within him effortlessly now. No longer a practice, no longer a mantra, just being. His third eye wasn't an organ opening. It was a lens of perception, a constant awareness of the currents beneath life's surface. He stepped outside and noticed the city in ways he never could before. The same streets, same buildings, same people, but different. Each interaction carried layers of energy, hidden patterns revealing themselves like rivers beneath the pavement. Traffic, conversations, subtle gestures, all resonated with meaning. And now, he could see the flow before it happened. His first conscious test was simple: a morning coffee. The cafe was bustling, baristas rushing, customers impatient. He held the word in his chest, letting it radiate outward naturally, effortlessly. As he approached the counter, the line seemed to part just enough. The barista glanced at him and smiled with precise timing. And his order arrived moments after he reached the front, exactly as he wanted, without a single thought of pushing or insisting. Kai understood. Reality was no longer chaotic. When he was aligned, events unfolded in harmonic synchrony. Probability itself bent not through force, but through presence. The hidden word amplified his coherence, and coherence shaped the world. Kai spent the next days exploring deeper. He tested situations that normally triggered stress. Meetings, deadlines, traffic jams, conflicts. Each time, he anchored the hidden word, breathed into its resonance, and observed. People's reactions shifted subtly but unmistakably. Misunderstandings dissolved before escalation. Opportunities appeared that he hadn't sought. Conversations flowed with uncanny clarity. Even material circumstances, delivery schedules, appointments, minor errors resolved themselves naturally, as if reality recognized his alignment and reorganized in response. He realized the third eye was less about seeing things unseen, and more about perceiving patterns unseen. The hidden word didn't just open perception. It aligned him with the intelligence already present in every situation. Kai then sought solitude to deepen understanding. He climbed the hills outside the city, sitting on a rock as the wind swept around him. He allowed the word to pulse freely, feeling the resonance expand beyond his body into the atmosphere, into the ground, into the life around him. Birds seemed to circle in rhythmic patterns he could feel rather than see. Trees shifted subtly, leaves orienting themselves toward the sun and wind in precise harmony with his awareness. Even the clouds appeared to move with intentional grace. He whispered the word again and again, not as a practice, but as an acknowledgement of connection. This frequency was not a tool to command life. It was a bridge to participate in the intelligence of the world. The next breakthrough came unexpectedly. Kai returned to the city, stepping into a chaotic intersection where cars honked, pedestrians rushed, and frustration was palpable. Normally, he would have slowed, tense, mentally calculating escape routes. Instead, he centered the word in his chest. Everything shifted. Not physically, cars didn't stop for him. Pedestrians didn't pause, but energetically, a rhythm emerged. People's movements subtly adjusted. Energy around him calmed. Even the air felt lighter, as if the city itself bent around the coherence of his presence. It was here that Kai understood a profound principle. Mastery isn't control, it's coherence. When one radiates aligned frequency, the universe reorganizes to mirror that harmony. It isn't manipulation, it's resonance. Kai's understanding now extended beyond perception and alignment. He began noticing subtle probability shifts, small signs, gentle nudges, synchronicities that guided him. A random book on a shelf opened to a page he needed. A friend called at the exact moment he had a question. A delayed train allowed him to meet someone who changed his perspective on an ongoing project. Each event reinforced the principle. Reality is responsive to coherent frequency. The hidden word amplified that frequency. The third eye was the conscious interface with probability itself. He tested the limits. Kai meditated on a situation he had long deemed unsolvable, a strained friendship with someone deeply significant in his life. Normally, any attempt at reconciliation was clumsy, awkward, frustrating. This time, he breathed the word into the situation, holding coherence in his heart and mind. He didn't plan, argue, or persuade. He radiated presence, calm, and attunement. The first conversation flowed effortlessly. Words that normally sparked conflict became bridges. Energy that had been dense and heavy transformed into understanding, empathy, and mutual resonance. Kai realized then that the hidden word didn't just open the third eye, it opened a bridge between consciousnesses. Alignment was contagious. Presence was magnetic. Coherence invited coherence. Kai continued to expand his practice. He noticed patterns in finance, health, relationships, and creativity. Each domain responded to his alignment, but the mechanism remained constant. Coherent frequency. The word acted as an anchor, a pulse he could use to calibrate his own vibration at will. When confronted with fear, he held the word. Fear dissipated. When overwhelmed, he breathed the word. Clarity emerged. When lost, he whispered the word, and intuition guided him. The hidden word became not a technique, but an identity, a state of being. Kai now understood the full power of the principle. Awareness of patterns. The third eye sees resonance, flow, and probability. Anchoring frequency. The hidden word aligns consciousness with the underlying intelligence of reality. Participation, not control. Influence arises through presence, coherence, and resonance, not effort or force. Manifestation through alignment. Desire, intention, and outcome follow naturally when frequency matches the world's intelligence. Expansion of self. Mastery is identity-based. Being coherent changes perception, probability, and interaction. Kai's final realization came as the sun set over the horizon, the city bathed in orange and violet. He understood the ultimate truth. The hidden word doesn't open a third eye. It awakens consciousness to its natural function. Seeing beyond the ordinary isn't supernatural. It's recognition. Recognition that reality responds to coherent presence, that life flows in patterns, and that alignment is the key to effortless manifestation. Kai smiled, feeling the pulse of the word in every cell. It was no longer practice, no longer a secret. It was simply him. And with this, he knew the last step: integration. Kai began to live differently. Morning routines were brief and intentional. The word anchored his frequency before engagement with the world. Interactions became fluid, conversations flowed, problems resolved naturally, subtle guidance arose from intuition and synchronicity. Challenges didn't vanish, but his approach changed. Chaos became information, stress became data, obstacles became patterns to navigate. Creativity surged. Work, art, and ideas manifested in ways that felt effortless yet profound. The third eye was no longer a secret. It was his living perception. He moved through the world not as a separate self trying to bend reality, but as an aligned node within a responsive network of energy, intelligence, and infinite possibility. Kai's journey shows that the hidden word is more than a tool, it is a gateway. But awareness alone is not enough. You cannot sit passively and expect the universe to bend. You must anchor your presence, radiate coherent frequency, and engage fully with life's flow. Begin each day by holding the hidden word in your chest. Let it pulse. Let it resonate. Let it align you. Observe patterns in your environment, relationships, and experiences. Notice where coherence brings flow and where dissonance creates friction. Radiate alignment consciously. Influence arises naturally when your presence harmonizes with the intelligence of reality. Trust intuition, synchronicities, and subtle nudges. They are the language of the field responding to your frequency. Remember, mastery is identity-based. Become coherent, become aligned, become present. Kai's world and your potential exists not as a distant possibility, but as a reality waiting for the frequency of your awareness to awaken it. The hidden word is the key. The third eye is already open. The question is, will you step fully into this alignment or leave your perception clouded by distraction, doubt, and noise? Whisper the word. Anchor your frequency. Open your awareness. Step into the seamless flow of reality and let the universe respond.